Created live on Fireside.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too. I'm all set up here.
This was like the smoothest entrance of a YNS Live with NFL Thread show. I just have to tell you. So, you guys, we have such a special guest. Yes, Kathy, it must be you. Kathy Maurella, CMO of Waterloo. And I'm going to let Cynthia kind of tee this up, but I'm so excited because Waterloo is actually my favorite sparkling water. And the first time you guys actually were in Connecticut in the Whole Foods, I did a whole like live story to like all my fitness people about this is the sparkling water they need. So when Cynthia said Waterloo, I was like, oh, we have cases downstairs. This is what we drink. So go ahead, Cynthia.
We love that.
I love that too. So great. Yeah, it's for me, it's so funny because, meeting Kathy, first of all, we're both Penn Staters. So I think that's really why we met, is because we're both Penn Staters. It kind of it like epitomizes thread for me, because it's like connection. When you have a conversation with somebody, where is that conversation going to lead? And as it turned out, a friend of mine had introduced me to somebody that she thought would be interested in the Thread event for the Super Bowl, and so it's like Todd, but how do you say Todd's last name?
Bulow.
It's hard, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes.
I didn't want to say it wrong. But so, Todd and I had a conversation about the Thread event. And so as we were talking, he was like, wait, this is not at all what I thought we were going to be talking about. Like, so I was like, really? He goes, yeah, but keep talking, because I think I have somebody in mind for you that is perfect for your event. And so it ended up being that it was his dear friend, Kathy. Then we connected. And so it became this little mini family. We're all Penn Staters. And so we started talking about the Super Bowl and talking about Waterloo Sparkling Water. The next thing you know, my house, there's drop-offs. I have sparkling water. My kids are stealing it. There's the most amazing Yeti lunch bag that my son has already stolen from me. And so it's so nice to have you, Kathy. Thank you so much for the partnership, the friendship, and the fun that we had. And I hope that we continue to have together.
Yeah, thrilled to be here. Juliet, so nice to meet you. And Cynthia, it's been already quite a ride, and it's only just been a short window, which is a lot of fun.
Yes, exactly.
Well, when those, that's what I love when people are supposed to meet, when brands and events are supposed to meet, it's like this beautiful flow. And we talk about that a lot. And so I kind of want to get into the flow of your story, a little bit about you and how you became, the CMO of Waterloo, but let's go back. Just give us a little background about who you are.
Yeah, sure. So I had the pleasure of growing up in New Jersey. So I'm one of, go Jers girls. I'm one of 3 kids, parents still there. My sister still lives there. So a good crew. And then, as Cynthia said, went off to Penn State, and transparently wasn't a marketing major. I was a supply chain business logistics major. I remember getting there and I said, I think I want to do something in business. And the dean of supply chain got up and said, we have a 97% job placement rate. I was like, my parents will like that. Let's go do that. And then fortunately, the benefit of a school like Penn State is a lot of the major consumer packaged goods companies would come and recruit there. And Penn State had a great supply chain team. So I ended up with a few internships at Nabisco. It was called Nabisco. It is now Forward Mandalays, but Nabisco, and then fortunately forged, as Cynthia would say already, forged great relationships there. Ended up going to business school through them. Kraft ended up buying them, and I found myself in a great position to move into brand marketing through the relationships I'd built through the supply chain department. And, it really took off from there. So got a great grounding from there, went off to be the director of marketing for Atkins Nutritionals. And so again, a little bit from the cookies to the health and wellness space, and then ended up having about a 13-year independent consulting career. And the benefit of that, and the one thing, that I continue to tell people, is that consulting career was really built on all the relationships through Penn State, through Kraft, through Nabisco, through Atkins. And the pretty incredible part is how Waterloo came to be. The director of sales and future VP of sales at Atkins is now the Waterloo CEO. So he and I actually met 20 years ago. our chief revenue officer, we joke around, we used to yell over the wall 20 years ago. He was also in supply chain at the time, and I was the director of marketing. So you have 3 of the 5 of us on the executive committee who have known each other for 20 years. And there's something to be said about incredible relationships. And, Jason Shiver's our CEO. He is, I'd say, if he were here, he'd tell you he probably has worked with about 70% of the employees before at Waterloo. So there's a really tight-knit group, which I think, just speaks to the idea of, family and friends and teamwork. And, we always talk that, we are our own team, right? Like it really becomes important. And so in the summer of 2020, the company was going through some changes and fundraise, and Jason came knocking. And I always said, for the right job, for the right culture. And I had been kind of around the block enough that culture was one of those things. For the right job, for the right culture, and for the right brand, I would kind of give up the consulting and come over back to the brand side. And that's how I ended up at Waterloo.
That's amazing. So I have 1,000 questions. Cynthia knows this is like what I love. So when you took a step and went into your own business, where were you in your life? Like what was behind that? I love women to hear kind of this.
Yeah, I did what I wouldn't probably recommend. I had literally just signed a contract on buying my first apartment in New York City and started my own consulting company in the same year. That always might not be the smartest thing to do, but it builds character. So definitely builds character. And my intention, it was interesting. I never expected to go into my own business. That was, I got offered a consulting project, and it was a good time to switch and be leaving Atkins. And I was like, you know what, I'll take a little project and then I'll job search. Because in my own head, I didn't know that I could do it. And the idea of going to ask people for work just felt very like that was a little anti of how I was comfortable. And then you realize, like, relationships, I didn't have to ask people for work. You never really knew how much you had learned until you got into an environment where they didn't have someone with your background or skill set. And I think, such an incredible growing period for me in the trust, what you've learned, trust what you know, trust in those relationships, continue to build them. And, I was never one that could say, like, go out to lunch because you're supposed to go out to lunch with someone. But I did stay incredibly in touch with the people that I really enjoyed personally and had similar values and worked hard and, had a good work ethic that we also enjoyed, time outside. And I think, between those elements and then the idea of starting my own business, before it literally was 13 years later. And I was like, oh my goodness, how'd that happen? And, I love to now help women starting their careers. I mean, even some of the people that I met when I was out in Vegas, the first thing I say is, let me know if I could help, and let's hop on a call, because I think it's scary. And you realize, like, I can do this. I know enough. So it turned out to be something I didn't think it would be, but it was an incredible run and learned so much during that process.
It's really interesting to me, when, in listening to you, and it's such good advice for anybody that's just getting started in anything that they're doing about building those relationships and maintaining those relationships. But what you're describing is so familiar to me, because it's really what's happening in the coaching world that I'm in right now. And that everybody knows that when you are a young assistant coach coming in, you start meeting other coaches and you start building that room. You're thinking to yourself, someday if I get the room, I know who I'm bringing with me. Someday if I get that shot, here's my list of guys, of people that I want to work with, and so you start building your staff as you're really when you're young. And then when you do get that opportunity for the world, they're thinking, where did they find these guys? Well, these guys, the people you want to work with. So your friends, they knew you and they know what you're capable of. So they're thinking, we need somebody who can take over. And what you've done with the marketing, it's magic. It's wonderful. I've never seen anything like it. And they knew that about you already. And that's why they recruited you in. They knew you were there. I love that.
Yeah. And I think what I would say too, I inherited some people on my team, but I got to be honest, Cynthia, I have many that I pulled into Waterloo on the marketing team that, not shocking, I've worked with before. And I think there's something, right? Because then you go in with confidence, right? There was already the relationship established. there's in all of us, we all have kind of, that athletic, got to figure it out, I can do this mentality. But I also think, hiring a team around you and being surrounded with people that can enhance your role and enhance what the organization can do was so important from a team. So absolutely, I kind of came in with my own Rolodex. I use a lot of agencies, Agent A, and Alex Rodriguez is the founder of Agent A. He's the one that has helped us with the Water Down Nothing ad campaign. Alex and I have worked together 4 times before. Right. This was the 4th time. So you end up texting back and forth, like, teammates out of the gates. The onboarding process for an agency comes so much easier when they understand the dynamics. And I do think, growing up playing sports, there's a, mentality too, that is, brings that to the table. So you have a high expectations. But I think working with people before, they know they know what your expectations are. They're pretty high.
Yeah. And you know what? And I think that what the message is, which is so important, because someone could be listening to this and be like, okay, well, where do I start? How do I create those relationships? Like, what do I do? I'm just starting out, or I've been in the industry and I feel like I haven't done that. And one of the things that I think is so important is keeping yourself open, keeping yourself curious, keep yourself going to things that you might be like, I don't feel like doing it. But it's like, it's important because that's when you connect with people, when you go and put yourself out there and not keep yourself because of insecurities or keep yourself aside. You have to go and you have to put yourself out there. And that's what the most important thing is, because when you do that, when you're uncomfortable or things are not going the same way, that's when you learn. When you have the flow and things are great, you don't really learn as much, but it's when in the hard times of how can I step out of my comfort zone? How can I do this? Is when you start really making that contact. And bringing up the sports, I know Cynthia smiled. I played sports. I played field hockey and lacrosse in college, and athletics is so important to me. I'm dyslexic, so school was really tough for me, but that's where I excelled, and I made so many great relationships. But I also learned so much about myself and how I work, but also that hard work and that tenacity. Struggling in school. It's those things that people don't sometimes introspectively think about themselves. Like, what am I good at? What do I need help with? And what am I good at? And taking the things that you're good at and kind of running with them, but then looking for people that can support the things that, maybe is not my strongest point, right? These are the things I need help, and finding those people to kind of fill in. And that's when you have a dream team. And I love how you kind of just placed that and said that. It's really something for people to think about. We need to be better and step out of our comfort zone.
Yeah. 2 things on that, Julia. I remember the first time I was invited to an event when it was just me and I was consulting, and it was going to be a dinner, 25, 30 people. We'd like you to go. And I was thinking, can I bring a guest? Can I bring a +1? I'll bring whoever. I don't care. And because the idea of doing that and knowing nobody in the room, I was like, you're fine. This is perfect. If you bring someone with you, then you're going to end up entertaining or talking to the person that you brought with you, rather than honestly appreciating and embracing why you were there to begin with. And so, I think that's so true. And Cynthia, I can't remember if I told you this, but, when we were in Vegas, Todd and I went to listen to the NFL Players Association lead speak. And it's so true, Juliet. He said something very similar to what you just said. And what, I think we try to do in a smaller company is lean in on people's strengths. For so long, you hear so much about, we have to do something with these weaknesses. Let's get together a plan to improve your weaknesses. And you're like, they've probably been the same weaknesses at this stage for 30 years, right? Like, it might be a little bit of who I am. You're going to take the good with the bad. And I'm not saying don't try to, embrace opportunity areas. But I think what we also try to do in a fast-paced, small company, we have a very lean headcount for the size of the business and the growth. We leverage agencies where we can, but that means everybody's plate is always pretty full. That also means that you're constantly balancing priorities. And, I think for many of us, it's always easier to do something you're comfortable with. And so, but if you're building on those strengths, you're going to get through the things you're comfortable with a lot faster, which means keep running, do what you're great at. And then, yes, we'll continue to build up those opportunities areas. But if you think about them as 50-50, where put the strengths aside and only focus on the opportunity areas, it's a challenge. And, I think that sets people up to fail.
It does. And it starts from school. I mean, going through, because my oldest is dyslexic, going into school, that's what they do. They constantly, and I was the mom every time. Okay, he's dyslexic. Is he ever really going to be great at this? Like, he can get it better. But look what he's good at. Look at these amazing things. Why aren't we focused? And I would fight tooth and nail with people. I still do. And that is something. So I love that talk you did, because that's what's so important. You can take these strengths and you can get them stronger and stronger and stronger. Yes, you can build those weaknesses up a little bit, but I'm never going to be a scientist, right? I'm never going to be a mathematician. I'm going to need people to help me with that stuff. But guess what? I can talk to whoever, I communicate, I can connect. So I love that you said that. And I love that's what you guys are building on.
Yeah, I think that what you guys are saying that is like sometimes your best strength is realizing your weakness and then leaning on those with that strength. But then you're going to learn from them. And guess what?
Yes.
Slowly it's going to kick in and you're going to understand what they're doing and you're going to learn. So that's great.
I love that.
Yeah, I think I told Cynthia the story about the ad campaign. So our ad campaign, a few things about Waterloo, which Juliet, hopefully you and Cynthia can see, but it really fills this space in the category for a really full flavor, more sensorial flavor. You pop a Waterloo, you could actually smell the flavor. Yes. You get it, and you're like, oh, it tastes like it's supposed to. And that's what so many people have told us for so long. And then the nutritional profile of Waterloo is actually, has a strength versus the competitive set. So we said full flavor, better for you, better nutritionals than the competitive set. And as we start to build on the ad campaign that, we had with us out at the NFL luncheon, the campaign ended up turning into the watered down nothing. And watered down nothing actually came with 3 pillars. The obvious one was on the full flavor on the product, but that was really only one of the pillars. The second pillar was around this culture that we have at Waterloo and this idea of go all in, go for broke, right? Mm-hmm. You aren't one of the big major CPGs. You don't have the biggest ad spend. But you know what? Go in, work hard. So watered down nothing fit the Waterloo culture. And then interestingly enough, the consumer target that ended up being gravitating toward Waterloo the most had a very similar mentality and really lived life, as we'd say, every day focused on discovery and trying something new and living life the way they felt the most comfortable, and they did it their way. And so watered down nothing fit the product, the culture, and the consumer that was most attracted to Waterloo. And it became so obvious as we started to run with that ad campaign that this resonated with the consumer target. The company culture made a lot of sense. And then, yes, it actually described what you were about to drink as well.
You do. And the smell, I have to say, that is one of the things I love. And I know, Cynthia, you want to go, but that one of the things I love to have a Waterloo in my car, because then afterwards I get in the car and it still smells like it and it makes me happy.
Yes.
It actually makes me happy. Your product makes me happy.
There we go.
For me, it's like crazy because, the whole purpose of, Thread and the playbook and these events is reminding NFL families of who they are and what they've already done. Mm-hmm. There's a really, I don't know why this happens, but after you're out, you tend to forget all that you did and you have this feeling of like you haven't done anything. And so the players come in and they're all modest and humble, and the wives are like, okay, that's not my life anymore. I need to find a job. And they are watering down who they are.
Yes.
They are watering down what they've done. And I'm always like, you are part of the 1% who brought the game to the highest level. You should walk in the door and use that, because people don't forget. Why are you forgetting? So when when I go to the events, that's my whole purpose. Don't be humble today. Today's the day to make these connections. Today is the day to grow. So your campaign I can't get it out of my head. Water down nothing is like, I'm waking up thinking that way. Like, no, you can't take today off. You got to go. You've got so much more to do today, because this is big and you're not watering down what you just did. You've got to really put it out there. So for me, that was just a great strike of, I don't think it was luck. I think it was just a bunch of talent coming together and realizing you had something big there with that campaign slogan.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to resonate. And like I said, I love the stories as we talk to people about it. It really brings to life, right? It's not a campaign that you have to explain and someone says, well, I don't get it, right? That doesn't happen, right? People think about it and then, Juliet, to your point, right? Like said, the product smells like it's supposed to, tastes like it's supposed to. And then, oh, got it. And it starts connecting. So, we're going to continue to build on it. I will be in New York in a few weeks to do the next version of Watered Down Nothing, but we know the campaign's so powerful, we're going to continue to build on it.
I love it. And you're like that. When we first met and we were hanging out, I hung out, your energy is like that. And it's like, and then your products, all of your merchandise, everything. I want to run around my house right now and grab some. I think I might do it. But it's beautiful. It's like, it's not just it's a beach towel, but it's like a plush, colorful, wonderful, where is my beach towel? I'll kill anybody that steals it from me.
Yeah, the quality, and I think Cynthia, it's so true, right? We've said you could do something and just put it out there for the sake of putting out there, and instead, everything we do is thoughtful. And sometimes that means you can't do quite as much and you can't get quite as many beach towels out there. But the idea is to be thoughtful because it still has to fit within the brand and the brand quality. And the quality is so important to us, as a company and as a brand, that I thank you for noticing, because it is the little things that you end up doing and making sure you're really representing the brand at every touch point that consumers see it.
It's so true.
Oh, sorry, Juliet.
No, go. You go.
Well, real quickly about the merchandise, the cooler, the Waterloo Sparkling Water Yeti cooler that came. So Michael was getting all prepped for lunch the next day, and he was putting something on the zipper. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm oiling the zipper. He came with a little oil thing that you could oil the zipper so the zipper opens and closes easily. Like,
thank you, Yeti.
Yeah.
Yes.
So cool.
I love that. Well, I mean, but the thing is, and it's true, and I'm not just, people know Cynthia and I are very authentic. Like if we like something, we like it. And if we don't, we don't bat, but it's just like, oh, it's, that's great, whatever. One of the things that, again, with Waterloo, and this is why I can totally remember. I mean, I remember going into the Whole Foods. I used to live at the Whole Foods. I was just loved. And I was like, oh, I love the packaging. It's like clean, crisp, cool. I love this. And I'm praying that it's going to taste as good as it looks. Because my husband would always laugh. He'd be like, you always bring home the stuff. Packaging, right? I'm the consumer that, like, if something's cool looking packaging, and it's healthy and organic, whatever, I'll bring it home. I am that person. I will admit it. So I remember I actually opened it in the store because I was like, I'm going to open one now. And it was the blueberry lemonade. And so
blackberry lemonade.
Oh, it was blackberry lemonade. Okay,
blackberry
so that was
lemonade. Yes.
And is that one of the first ones? Because I'm trying to think, what was the first?
Black cherry. So I still am very loyal.
Yes, that's my husband's. That's my husband's favorite.
That is one of the originals.
Yeah.
Blackberry lemonade, evolved. So that's probably 2 years ago. I was around to help launch that one with the innovation team, who's spectacular. But
so it's not. So that's my favorite here. So whatever one that was in the store when it literally first came out, I remember opening it because I was like, I need to try this. Like I'm excited. I want to get like 5 boxes. I want to get all the flavors, but let me try it to make sure that it's going to taste as good, because I don't want to bring them home and my husband being like, well, this is not even good. Why? What's wrong with you? Why did you just spend this money? So I remember opening it, and I think I probably had 1 or 2 of my kids with me, and I remember the smell. I mean, clear today, I remember the smell and being like, oh, okay, I'm really excited. And then and I literally did a live in Whole Foods talking about this new sparkling water. Like, I'm not kidding.
It's wonderful.
I swear to God, I put it on the show. That's why when you said Waterloo, I was like, Cynthia, yes, I know who they are. Like, I've been obsessed. Like the day they came into my Whole Foods, and I did a live, and then literally all of my friends were like, okay, I did a fitness. I used to teach fitness classes like when my kids were younger, and I took myself out of the corporate world. And so this is what I'm like, this is amazing. It's like just killed my cravings, because usually I go and get the chocolate, and I, had my routines at Whole Foods. I literally put it on the shelf, did a live, and bought every single flavor and brought it home. And everyone loved it. They were all excited. And so, I mean, no, but it is hands down the favorite. And you can do it like, yes, we've mixed it with cocktails, and that was wonderful, but it's really also just great just by itself. And again, just for like a craving and just a like a clean, crisp, fun, it makes you happy and smells great.
Absolutely. Yes. And I remember doing consumer research, right, during the COVID time frame, which, it wasn't exactly a good time for many who had been, going through a lot. And I remember doing research, and that's what people told us during that. Like, this is my break in the day. They said, I drink a lot. I put myself on, when I can have it, I think for us, that innovation continues. I'm happy to share. I'll make sure you both get some new products are about to hit the shelf, which is very exciting in the next 2 weeks. Yes. Juliet, you'll see them at your Whole Foods. You'll see them at a lot of major retailers around the country. And then what we also end up doing is to keep exactly what you said, this idea of discovery and fun coming. We will also have limited time offers that are coming out in end of April, early May, which are also fantastic. And I think for us, it's this combination of keeping the energy and keeping innovation, because Julia, exactly what you said, people find their favorites, but then there's always the discovery, and then they realize, wow, maybe I have 2 new favorites. So we keep the energy going with the flavor innovation, which is fantastic.
Absolutely.
I love that.
And then, of course, like what I love is that for the event in itself, besides being, during the day and enjoying this amazing sparkling water, it was so awesome how you collaborated with 21 Seeds, our tequila brand.
Right.
And I always like to have a signature drink at the event. And all of a sudden I was like, you know what? We have Waterloo Sparkling Water and we have 21 Seeds, the tequila. And so I was interested in collaborating. Why don't you? And then I just stepped away, and together the 2 teams worked it out, and all of our signature drinks, which were all so great, incorporated the Waterloo Sparkling Water, and they were creative. Everybody went crazy over them. They tasted so great, and it was in theme. For me, it was in theme because we had, I'm all about working together, networking, combining your talents. And for me to see 2 brands working together like that at the event, that was another message that I thought was really important.
Yeah, they were great partners. It was so great that I got to meet some of the team at the actual event. And by the time you meet them, you feel like these people. It was so nice to get to meet. But I think that's important too. You find, and the conversation I had with the 21 Seeds team is, you find like-minded brands, right? And that's what you're looking for. And I think whether that's, in relationships, whether that's in branding, whether that's in partnership, there's something super valuable to that. And, again, both brands, have really defined what they stood for, what they were. And I think, it also allowed us to come together and collaborate together to get to a great place for the event. But yeah, we're always looking for those opportunities, because I think that's what helps to enhance a brand, really build on it, and partner together and leverage each other's strengths is always positive.
Yeah, seeing like your videos between the Waterloo videos, it's just so cool. Like, they're just the color and just the theme. Like, I was showing my husband Michael, and he's like, wow, just really combined with John Hardy's, combined with 21 Seeds, all the color was just splashing at us the whole event. And for me, it was just one of those accidental conversations I was having with Rebecca, a flanker, that she said, we have a lot of screens if you want to send us something.
So
it's amazing.
Cool. It was so cool.
It was. Yeah. I ended up taking, I don't think I told you this, Cynthia, I took a video of the room to show the team, because, a lot of times you do the commercial, and we all get excited when we see our own commercials on Hulu or Peacock or Amazon Prime. Like, that's so fun. But when you get to see it in surround sound, I can't say I ever got to watch those commercials in what felt like surround sound. I described it to people as a sports bar that had the same game on every station. Yes. Which is like heaven for a brand marketer, right? I was like, and there I am. We're everywhere. It's fantastic. Yeah. So that was a great setup.
Yeah, I was so excited about that, and just the idea of it, of everybody just looking every time you looked up, and just to be able to put your partner in the light like that, but also aesthetically, it was the best decor for me because they were so cool.
Yeah, it was very cool.
Yeah, it made for a very nice backdrop, and all the ads, right? And I think, Cynthia, it's kind of what you talked about too in the partnerships, when the brands all feel similar across different categories, right? Yes. That makes for it, because then you say, okay, I knew who was going to be in the room, right? That's important, right? In the world of brand, I knew who was going to be in the room. Yep. I knew what would be a relevant message for them or a relevant brand for them across multiple categories. And I think, that's what ended up happening at that event.
Yes.
even personally John Hardy fan. And so I was like, oh yeah, I know them. I know.
No,
Yeah, it made it all feel like it fit together really well.
well, that's when the magic happens. And it's so
Right.
true. It's like-minded, same kind of quality, same kind of message. When
Yeah.
that all comes together, it's like, boom, you know that this is how it's going to be. I mean, it's, Cynthia, and she doesn't love when I do this, but she is so amazing when she comes because
Okay.
her creative mind and her work ethic, and she really puts together such amazing events. And it's awesome to see, hearing all the things and the pieces and then going and just being like, how do you do this? How do
Yeah, that's
you
right.
do this? You are incredible. It really is. So it
When
was
you
it
let
was a
other
pleasure.
people do their thing, I think that's the most important thing, is you let other people do their thing. But I wanted to mention, Todd is a really good friend of yours, and I have two situations at the event that I can tell you and attest to that.
Yes.
One is, he came up to me and said, Kathy's really a Giants fan, and LT's over there. So can you introduce them? And I said,
Yes.
you better believe I can. Absolutely.
Yes. Yes. And I thank you for that. Yes.
It was his
So
birthday.
funny.
His daughters were all there, and
Oh,
they
that
wanted
was
to
cool.
sing so badly to him. I'm like, sing to him.
Sing.
Get the microphone and sing to him. Then they would say, no, 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 we're not going to sing to him. And every time I saw them, I was like, what are you going to do? What are you going
Yes.
to do? What are you going to sing?
Yes.
So it was his birthday. So they were excited about that. And the second time he came up and said, hey, I need a Super Bowl program because Kathy didn't get one, so you're gonna find me one. So we were like looking around, and we got your Super Bowl program book. You got
Thank
it right.
you. Yeah, my nephew is going to get it later tonight. He's so
Good.
excited. So yes, I did grow up in a diehard Giants fan. My dad, God bless him, still take him to a game once a year. And I will say, Cynthia, that I did have the pleasure to meet Saquon Barkley on Friday morning in Media Row, and he couldn't have been nicer, super sweet. And I'm just, as a Penn Stater, proud to watch all these incredible athletes run off and do their thing too, which is so fantastic. So yeah, no, I appreciate the Todd hookups. Obviously, the Giants conversation. We talk about the Giants an awful lot in my household.
That's
So
beautiful.
my husband grew up in the Bronx, so we are Giants. Even though
Yes.
I grew up outside of Philly. So
Okay.
so my whole family are Philly fans. So
It's okay,
the
Juliet.
fun,
It's okay.
well, the fun comments. I like both. I was gonna say I go both
Good.
ways, but I don't. Someone could
Good.
take that a different way. But so I am like, I just like a good game. But yes, the stuff that my sisters and brother would send to my kids, and Dan would be like, you put that in my house again, and I will rip
Yeah.
your faces off. He is
Yeah.
diehard Bronx boy through and through. He bleeds blue. Yankees and
That's
Giants.
great. That's the world we roll into.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah. Oh, I love
I
that.
remember being in Philadelphia, and we'd have our away games at the Giants Stadium, and they would put us up so high. So I would fear for my kid's life. Like my sons would get up to cheer, and I would be like, because I pictured them just flying off and onto the field, and I would be like so scared. We talk about removing us from any situation.
Yeah, that's right.
Be like, where's Daddy? I'd be like,
I don't even see. We need binoculars
We
for the
could
whole
bring-
family.
They were
So
yes,
funny.
exactly. But those games were always intensely competitive, and
Oh.
I know my husband actually had a really fun game against the Giants. Late in his career, it sent us to the playoffs so it was really excellent. He had an interception and ran it back for a touchdown. And it was like the next day we were so excited, and it was like game winning. So that was why we went to the playoffs. Well, the next morning, Bill Lyons writes to call him, and it's like Zordich, he emerged from the dust and the grit and the fear of the, it was like he was some ancient person that came back to life to win this game. I was like, geez, Michael, you're only 36 years old.
Right.
I know. Can you imagine?
He rose from the ashes and
It was like he rose from and it was like, oh my Lord.
That's funny.
36, right? I mean, geez.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's so fun. But that is one of the things with Cynthia's events. It's connection. It's the connection. Yes. It's the feel. It's uplifting each other. It's, just being there and doing what you talked about, how you started your career, right? And that's the beauty of it. And that's what Cynthia embodies. I mean, she really does.
Yes.
Yeah. No, a pleasure. Well, I mean, part of it is now I feel like I have a lifelong friend too. I mean, part of it becomes, like you said, that relationship connection, and then that's kind of how it goes, right? The continue down the path with like-minded people make it so powerful.
Mhm.
Absolutely. I mean, it's funny. I mean, Aiden is actually going to reach out to Todd. She's in, my daughter Aiden is in Matthews, North Carolina, and Todd's wife, Michelle, having
Yeah.
that crazy Bellatuno, which Aiden
Yes.
already is aware of and already knows about it. He already sent her a gift certificate to
Oh,
go
that's
to it.
great.
But now she wants to meet him for lunch just to pick his brains about like life and just kind of like everything. And it's so cool just to meet him and to know him. And he even reached out to her husband, Ray. So I just feel like it just continues. And that
Yes.
is the idea in life. And I think that I love your testament. I hope you can share it more and more, because I think that's the one thing that a lot of the young kids today are missing, because a lot of people are remote. They are working from home, and
Yeah.
they are not getting out into the world to have these organic conversations. So, we're all looking at Zoom a lot. So I think that you even kind of speaking on that more, I hope you can get on that circuit and do more and more podcasts and sharing that message, because I think it is really important.
I am here. I will tell you, Cynthia, I'm going up to Penn State to actually guest lecture next Thursday for 3 senior level marketing classes. So I'm very
Amazing.
excited. Turns out there happens to be a basketball game the night before.
Oh,
I am
fun.
taking out some family friends, their sons there, who I have got to know quite well, and taking out his roommates for dinner. So it will be a lot of fun. But yes, I mean, it's exactly that, getting out and trying to help, because you're right. I think what I have found is, the people who are further along in their careers, sometimes the working from home thing is just perfect, right? It allows to hone in, focus. But I do think people in the early stages of the career really do miss the conversation of walking past each other in the halls, and the cooler conversations were real, right? I mean, we all did them. We'd all walk around the offices, and I think you do miss some of that right now. And I do think it does sit on some of us to try to help navigate the new world for people, so they don't miss out on some of the things that we all got early in our careers.
Exactly. If you don't mind sharing me that information, because there's some people there that are at Penn State, like I know a couple of the coaches there, and
Yes,
the female coaches there that might want to share it with some of their players. Like, to me, that's the number one recruiting right there, because the athletes, I think, are just such great people to work for great companies. So if you don't mind, I'll share that information, and if they can come in and check you out, that would be great.
Yeah, I will definitely send it along. I will. Yeah, flying in Wednesday morning, navigating, from Florida to State College. I said I haven't been in State College's airport since I was a senior in college, but I do know they have one. So I said, even for me. And then, yes, I will be there for almost 2 days. So I'll definitely send the information along, Cynthia. So yeah, more than happy to connect with whoever I can along the way.
And so now you're in sunny Florida, nice warm. It's freezing here.
I am about to go to sunny Florida. I'm on a 5:00 flight. I'm in New York. I was here for 2 days for meetings, but I am my sister, brother-in-law, and their 3 peanuts are flying to visit Aunt Kathy in Florida tonight at 5:00, and I just put myself on their flight, so I'm flying home with them. Which will
how fun! Oh, that's good. That's nice help.
Yes,
right.
Yes. Yeah,
that's fun.
So it'd be good.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being on. We just so appreciate, I appreciate your friendship so much.
Yeah.
And I just feel like I can't tell enough people about everything that you're doing and your energy, and I just feel like I'm just thankful to have met you and to have worked with
back
you.
At you.
Yeah. And just to keep, doing great things. And I have to say, even if Juliet, you can have Kathy on your podcast to share, because you have a whole different audience.
Yeah.
I think it would be it's just
I
really
would love that.
an important message of friendship and networking and nurturing those friendships.
Yeah,
no, I would love that. I'll
absolutely.
definitely have you on your next stop. That would be my pleasure, because I have so many more questions.
I am here to help in any way. Yeah, I'm more than happy to do it.
Yeah, I love learning about people.
It was fun chatting today. Yeah,
yes.
I had a great time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Juliet. Very nice to meet you, Cynthia. I will be in touch.
See you
so
later.
Nice to meet you. And I'll send you an email so we can connect on the podcast.
Perfect. Right. Happy Friday.
Yes, happy Friday. Yes, happy Friday.
Good go, girlie.
Oh, I'm so big.
You're so
Why?
big.
Why am I so big and you're like tiny?
Really?
Do you see my picture is like a big?
Not for me. You're good for me. You
Oh, good.
didn't bump too
Um,
much. Maybe just for you it bumped up. But
yeah, it did. She's amazing.
I know. And I tell you, it's just incredible to me. And I just feel like that it is what the reason that we do everything that we're doing is just to, kind of like catapult people into a direction that they need to go and help them grow. And I hope a lot of the girls got to meet Kathy at the event. I hope that, she got to have good conversations, because, she just, like that message, just kind of
I
like
love
that
it.
is important. Right.
And you can feel it, but it's also so cool to hear that in her world, because I know a lot of people that are trying to break into corporations or trying to break in, especially young kids, but even people that are, older and pivoting maybe out of their things, like, how do I do it? And it really is about relationships. And it's almost so simple. It's like drink more water, right? Your skin's better if you drink more water. It's really simple, but sometimes it's hard. It's a hard thing to do, but doing it's all about those relationships. And fortunately or unfortunately, because some people might say, maybe they're socially awkward or they don't know this, they don't know that, but it doesn't matter. You're going to meet your people if you put yourself out there.
Exactly. That's true. Yesterday, something really cool happened. I had this great opportunity to go back to my elementary school.
With B. Oh, your book?
Yes, I brought you that. So the principal, Kristen Brown, she was just so great. And I had a conversation with her about doing a reading at the elementary school. And she said, well, what grade were you thinking about? And I said, well, I would love to read a second grade because my best friend, Carol and I went to second grade together. And so same with Kathy. Yeah. Kathy was out of town. So I called Carol and I said, Doof, you have to come with me to Dible. It's not Dible anymore. It's Penn Hills Elementary School, but it was Dible for us. And I said, you have to come to the school with me because I'm going to do a reading. Well, she brought her little grandson, AJ, and Nino.
Oh my God, they're so cute.
So we go to the elementary school and the kids are all there and they're so cute, right? And I'm doing a reading, but before I read the book to them, I was like, I brought a copy of our second grade photograph, the class photo.
Oh, yes.
Yes. And I told them, I said, listen, I am here. And if you look right over there is my best friend. And we were you guys at one point in this classroom, second graders. And I sent the picture around and they were laughing so hard,
Right.
We all look so goofy. And I said, and I was like, we have been friends for over 54 years,
That's incredible.
I told my mother that and she's like, you shouldn't have told them that. You're scared. You're scared of them. I'm like,
of course your mom would say that. You're scared.
I know. I go, Mommy. So I said, we've been friends for so long. I said, so look at the person next to you, find your best friend across the way. And you guys might end up raising your families together. You might end up having the second gen of kids that think they're cousins. Now we're working on the third generation. This could be the person for the rest of your life. Well, all of a sudden they started telling me who's best friends with who and how long they've been best friends. And they were kind of smiling at each other. Like we could end up being friends for
That's so special.
And it was a really special message to say to them, like, nurture your friendships because they could be your friend for the rest of your life. And Carol being there was as important as reading the book to them because, the book is really just all about, friendship as well, unlikely friendships that you forge,
Right.
And of course, so after the book was done, most of the stories that they had to share with me was about bees stinging them.
Right. Of course. That age is so funny, right?
So they were like, one time. And so we're like, okay, so now we know why we're afraid of bees and why our parents tell us to stay away from bees, but not all bees. The one little boy said, if you are nice to a bee and leave them alone, then they won't sting you. And I said, well, isn't that a nice message? Even for a person to think if you're nice to somebody, they'll be nice back to you,
right.
And if you swing at them, they'll probably, sting you or swing back. Right. And then we started talking about best friends and how they became best friends with each other. And they were telling those stories. So it was just so sweet.
That must have been so sweet. Yes.
Yeah. But it was about relationships, really, when it comes down to it. It's funny that it's about maintaining relationships and building them and keeping them forever.
Well, and that's the thing, and keeping them and keeping connected. And it is, again, and being authentic about it. right? Like that, I really care about you. I really, you are
Right.
my person, you get me, these kind of things are
Yeah,
so important.
it is. And when you said being authentic about it, because the one expression I cannot stand, and I just like, is somebody says, that's a good person to know.
I know.
When I hear somebody say that, I am just like, oh, no, 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 no. I
Yeah.
can't think like that. That is never going to be the way I think.
No.
It's like I would never approach somebody because I thought they were a good person to know. But you end up meeting, there are a lot of wonderful people to know, but you have to be authentic about it. You're right.
Yeah. And not right. And that's one of the things I think is in networking and in all of the things, sometimes people are awkward and feel awkward about it because it's like, especially if you're in sales or you have, and I don't want to say an end game because that sounds gross, right? An end game sounds gross. And it's really about the relationship. And you never know where that relationship can go.
Right.
You never know what you're doing and who the person that you're connecting with, because you're authentic and you really care about them. And that's the message that I think is so important and so lost. It's
Right.
that you really actually care about that person and their story. And that's why asking questions is so important. And, I mean, my kids and my husband laugh at me all the time. They're like, oh my God, you ask so many questions. And I say to them, but if I didn't ask any questions,
Right.
that means I don't care about you. I mean, I have teenagers, so they're like, okay, well, sometimes we don't want your questions. But it's about actually really caring about the person across from you or the person next to you or the person that you're meeting. Where did you grow up? What did you do? And sometimes when you ask those certain questions and you see the person answer, it's this answer sometimes that you don't realize, but then it's this like beautiful conversation because you asked a question that's something that's important to them, and they're excited about it. And that's where then they feel connected because they're like, oh, this person really listened. Because that's the other thing is being a good listener.
Definitely.
And really hearing, there's a difference between listening and hearing. And I always switch it around. Like sometimes it really, but like actually hearing what someone's saying, really listening and not just kind of being like, okay, let me just get through this because I'm trying to make a connection.
Absolutely. Or to say the next thing or say, I did that. Oh, I was there. Oh, this, that happened
Right.
to me. Like, you having to interject, your own self into it. And that's true. And another good example of that is, meeting Todd Boileau, who was having the conversation with me because Kathleen Beatty introduced us and said that I was doing the event. And there was a lot going on in Vegas, that was gearing towards sex trafficking and preventing it and putting the word out about it and giving it the exposure that it needed. And so as I was talking, he was like, wait a minute, this isn't what I thought we were going to talk about. I said, what did you think we were going to be talking about? He's like, sex trafficking. I'm like, oh, I was like, no, not at all. He goes, but keep talking because like, this is really great, what you're talking about. And I think I know somebody that might fit perfectly. And so, there was just a lot of there were so many people there that were doing wonderful things, like between the Maloof Foundation. And I know Cherise Brown was working, with Elizabeth Smart's team, and they're doing great things. And we're going to have them on the podcast on Monday, which is going to be great. And then, of course, with us, with Off the Field and the Bolitnikoff Foundation. So there was a lot of awareness going on about it. So a lot of people had their hands in spreading that message, which is so incredible and so careful. So I love that that's how that conversation had started. But what it led to was that friendship with, Waterloo Sparkling Water and Kathy Maurella and the Penn State connection and all that. So when you're right, like he could have easily said to me, oh, ho, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
I got to get on my next call. This is not what I was here for. But
he heard you. And that's the thing, right? And I love how you just said that because he could have on his own agenda. And this is a lot of people that are busy, right? They're like, okay, the next call, the next call, the next call, the next call. And if the one call goes off the way that they thought, and they're like, oh my God, I only had 20 minutes. And what are you talking about? This is not fitting in my agenda. And they dismiss it. You can miss out on so many things. So I love that you just said that because that is what's important. Just pausing. And it's hard to pause, right? It's not always easy to pause, but pause and listen.
Right.
Because you don't know what's going to come out of that conversation.
Exactly. And then he ended up being at the event. We got to meet. We had so much fun. And like, I just feel like you never know. Like, we could become friends, and maybe I will get involved with whatever he was doing. Maybe we will get involved with whatever he
Right.
was doing, within that scope of like I don't know what he was actually involved with. We never really got to talk about that, but Monday.
I'm sure you will.
Yeah.
But like, I would love just to kind of, because we're on here kind of diving into all the things. Love that we had Kathy on. But so you did this year, I mean, you had the luncheon,
Mm-hmm.
then you did the flag football game, which was a huge success. And then you're also the president of Off the Field. So you also were, big in the fashion show. I want to ask you, now I'm going to interview you for a second.
Jeez, I'm scared.
Which you weren't prepared for. But someone could be like, how does she do it How does she do it all? Right? Because you still make plenty of time for your family. You still are traveling in all these different places. You make time for your friends. And so you're not just working, where you're not, still doing things. You're giving yourself the time that you need. So if someone's out there being like, I have all these things that I love to do, and I have all this stuff on my plate, and I'm being pulled in all these different directions, how do you kind of add that to your plate? And then how do you navigate it?
Right. Oh, well, it's like, it is really constant. It is nonstop work. It's around the clock. It really is when it's leading up to those events. And anybody will tell you, and you know that yourself because you're a part of it. The months leading up to those events are nonstop, where I'll work all day, then I take a break and see Michael, and then I work all night. So it's really, just kind of like just diving in and getting all that done. And then, those breakaway times, yes, see your family, spend time, get pockets of time where you feel like you have a life and you're rejuvenated and you are a part of it. But it really is just work. It's really just work around the clock, to get it done, and lists. I started something that I thought was like really helpful to me and beneficial, is that I started doing my lists on my phone. And then before I would close down for the night, I would look at it, and everything that I finished, I put a smiley face before it.
Oh, I love that.
And it kind of made me feel so happy when I was scrolling. And if there wasn't a smiley face, I was like, what's going on there? I was like, oh, do that, And so at the end of the, come Friday after the fashion show, when I was scrolling and I just was adding all my happy faces, I was like, hey, that was all done,
That's so cool. I love that you did that.
Yeah. And it's just hard. It is just work. It's all it is, because my husband's friend, Kevin Turner, one of his videos that he did, one of the later videos that he did, he thought he was so funny, and he was funny, but he thought he was funny most. But he said, how do you eat an elephant? And then he said, one bite at a time. And so really and truly, when you have these big events, it's like an elephant, and you just got to
just keep biting today. Yeah.
Keep doing it, keep going, and surrounding yourself by people that care about it. Like I surround myself with you. You care. Montgomery came into our family, I fell in love with Montgomery, your son, who is just the most incredible person. He became a part of it. My best friends since 2nd and 9th grade, Carol and Kathy and Jackie and Renee, my Off the Field girls. Now, being the president of Off the Field, it was such an honor to introduce them at the fashion show and to turn back and see these graceful, beautiful, like poised women who worked and worked and worked. The way we do the fashion show is the committee chairs, and this year, Charisse Brown and Ramonda Jordan were our chairs. And, we, of course, were just working to do whatever we could do to help them. They did such a great job. I mean, it was such a fun.
It was a great event.
We're already talking about next year, but again, it is an honor. It's an honor. And there's a lot of delegating and a lot of committees and a lot of people that come into play to make that happen, which is great. For the thread events, I tend to do them by myself. I just kind of go, like that. And then but the day of is when all you guys come in, and it's fantastic.
Yeah. And I love how you put that. Like, you gave yourself a list with the smiley faces because that made you happy, right? It was
Yeah.
like, okay, good. Instead of making it where it's like, sorry. Because there's times, right? I mean, there's times when you're doing things that you love most of it, but there's always going to be thing in everything that any of us do, that
That's
the
right.
things that you don't love. And
Right.
that's also sometimes where it's like important to be like, let me see who can help me on this because I don't love this. And is there anyone that can help me? So I love how you kind of laid that out. And I think it's again such a beautiful thing, us capturing all the stories. The stories again, that's what connects us.
Right.
Capturing, meeting Kathy, having her on here, her sharing a little bit about Waterloo, a little bit about herself, but you're just more interested in the product because it's like, oh wait, she's cool. And I love how she just talked about, how Waterloo is set up and they've known each other and they're friends and they've worked together and they respect each other and they have this awesome culture because it is about the culture when you work with people, when you're with people all the time, you want to respect them. You want to have that same kind of like mind. But you also want to have someone that maybe doesn't have the exact same thoughts as you. So you can be like, you can kind of brainstorm and think and grow. And so it's wonderful how you bring that group together every year in the events that you do. It's so thoughtful and so meaningful.
It means a lot to me too. It's like, the more I think about it, the more like I realize that, Thread is a platform. And so the more I realize it and think about it it really is my personality, is that what Thread does is offer a platform for others. So the event isn't about me. It's about the people that are there.
Yeah.
So you're there to help me tell the stories of who they are and why they're there and to help them grow. And the reason to have the sponsors there, of course, is they make the event happen and they make the playbook happen. But what is the event? It is about making them, introducing them to the NFL family. Maybe they'll collaborate. Maybe they'll do a project together. Maybe somebody will represent them. So for me, it is a platform. The flag football game is to showcase NFL women in an empowering role on the field.
And they were so good.
Power, with an emphasis on power. I mean, Candace Prep is ridiculous. And then to show the NFL players in that supportive role as the coaches, and they were competitive too, but giving them that field and watching them shine and excel, and also promoting NFL flag, because that is important. They do realize that young girls are going to get scholarships to go to college in flag.
I wish I played flag.
You would play flag. I would have loved it. What sport did Kathy play? Did she say what sport she played?
She didn't. I was going to ask her, but she didn't. When I said I played, I was like going to wait. But then she didn't. So I was like, oh, I'll leave it. I'll definitely. That's what I mean. I had like a bunch of questions that I didn't want to take the conversation to like a whole different way because I wanted to focus on that. But I was like, I got a lot of questions. So I'm glad that you said you should come on the podcast
and you always have the right questions, and that is why you are going to go to the network. So we're going to have to shut down YNS Live with NFL Thread because you're going to be the next Diane Sawyer.
I love you.
You are. You ask the best questions. And
thank you. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. It's natural to you. It's because you really actually do care about what you're asking. And like you said, you're listening to the answers. And then I see how people, when they see you on the red carpet, when they come onto the podcast, they know that you already have a relationship with them and they know you.
It's cute. It was funny because Montgomery's like, Ma, everyone's hugging you. And I was like, yeah, I know. He's like, but everyone, and I was like, well, I've met them now for a number of years and they know I'm not going to ask them, it's funny and I'm not going to call anyone out, but there were some people that asked really, like they took too much time. I'm very aware of people's time. I know that they need to move to next week. I know that there was people behind me waiting that needed to interview. So I was like, I don't need to monopolize this, right? I just want to get one thing. And so, there was a couple different questions that I would ask, but it's what I'm curious about. And I know other people want to know too. And they appreciate that it's like, oh, they're like, oh, some of them be like, oh, another interview. And I'm like, I promised one question. And, then that they're like, all right. And then they're like, oh, wait, you really asked me one question. I was like, I say what I say, and then they would move on and appreciate it. So
respect for their time, respect for the fact that they are going, and you're actually keep holding them from getting through because there was so much for them to be a part of, getting into that room, especially as VIPs. So they had a lot of really wonderful activations, like between Cantu and Creed, they had a lot to get into. And then they had what a great experience for all of them.
It really,
And
really
you do
is.
such a great job. I'm just always so proud, and I love just peeking in and checking, and
Thanks.
you just got it. It's just a natural.
I appreciate it. No, it's wonderful. And I thank you for, always including me and saying that, Montgomery can come and intern. I have to show you. So for his, he's on broadcast journalism. So they have something called Hurricane Watch, and it's the students put together like little news things around the community and the school. And he got to do a little segment. So your flag game is on Hurricane Watch. And he was like, this is what I did Super Bowl week. Yeah.
So,
And then he was funny. He's like, I didn't put the podcast mom because it's like all you and it's kind of weird. So
he was like, oh, so you were with your mom? It's like, no.
yeah. So right. So he did have a couple interviews of me on the red carpet, but it was like the flag and then the fashion show.
Oh my
And
God.
so it was really cute.
He was
cute.
incredible. He was so helpful. I mean, just to be
Thanks.
able to turn to him and just be able to, can you do this? Can you do that? And he was just so in, but he also was so much a part of us, and he's funny, and
It's funny.
I just really, but I have to share what he said when I was like, listen, Montgomery, you got to help me out with this. So I want to get something for Michael, and he builds video games. So like, I'm trying to figure out, what do you think that I could get him that he would like? He goes, video game.
And we laughed. He was with all of us and we laughed for like 20 minutes. And he was like,
I just died. I mean, it was like that humor, like that was just dry. And he might have just been being serious, but he's like, video game. And I'm like dying. I'm like, that was just so funny.
Right. No, it's so funny. No, it was such a great event. And again, all like just everyone together, always supporting you is also just awesome because they know what this means to you and what you put into it and what this community means to you. As you said, I love how you started the beginning and you said, after you leave the game, sometimes it's like, well, I don't, sometimes the players and the wives, they don't like, well, we're not in the spotlight anymore. We don't know what to do. And it's like, no, you did this. Like you are this. It's and nothing like, and it's so not ego. And it's like, there was a couple people that walked through the red carpet that, they came through with the sign and it was like, do you want to interview? Do you want to interview? And I could tell they were players that were not there anymore. And some people didn't. I would always pull them in and you could just see the smiles. They were like, oh, thank you. Thank you for, and I could just tell because I could read people. Right. And it was like, they're not a has-been anymore. And that's one of the things I have such a problem with fans and all this stuff. It's like, you're out of the game. Now you're no one. No, they dedicated their lives for this. And it's not okay that we're just like, okay, on to the next. Like that's our society too much is on to the next. So yeah.
And that's exactly it. And that's why it goes, they water down what they did and who they are. And that's what I know, that there was a campaign going around that Legends was really promoting, that you are a part of the 1%. 1%. You have to remember that every time you walk into a room. That doesn't mean you have to do who I am, but just remember who you are so that you're not casting your eyes down. You're not, something, like the one time that I did I did a whole photo exhibit in Pittsburgh, and it was all of these portraits of the Steelers on top of old Pittsburgh Press newspapers.
Oh, I love
and
that.
The message was that how they say it's good as yesterday's newspaper, and that's the message I was sharing, is that this is what you are doing as fans to these players, by just casting them aside. They're not yesterday's news.
No.
This is a person.
This is a person.
Did much for the city. And it was a really neat combination. I guess I do have a lot of passion for that, because they are people and families, and there's, feelings and emotions, and it's hard to leave the game. As hard as it is already, then you feel this way about yourself. It's just, I just love building them up, and you build them up when you have them on the podcast. Why are you here? What are you doing now? How can we help you grow?
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. And I love that. And everyone can feel that's what you do. So that's what's awesome. So we're going to be sharing the podcast we have a lot of stuff that's coming out with YNS, live with NFL Thread. So watch it. We also have Monday, and I'm sure you sent me the time that we're doing, because I know I sent you sometimes. So Monday's confirmed. We're going to be having Charisse and Ramonda. But again, that's not going to be live. Some of the stuff that we're doing is going to be pre-recorded.
It's
but
just
it's going to go.
Right? It's just Charisse. I'll be talking to the Elizabeth Smart Foundation and the Maloof Foundation, and, just about all of their efforts in general and during the Super Bowl.
And so some of that might not be live because again, that's some information that we don't want to throw out there. It's going to be more of a podcast format, which we do with some of our guests. We go on a different platform, but we will be, you guys can see the flag football game on here. If you are like, oh wait, what are they talking about? You could see the podcast is already out. It's not edited, it's Fireside edited. So it's the live event. You can go and see that, which is awesome. And then again, these will all be going out on all of our channels, but our podcast, YNS Live with NFL Thread.
I forgot that they could see. So I need to share that with all the players. They're going to want to watch this.
Yeah. The flag football.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't believe I published it because I think I wanted to check with you and have it look through it first before it's published. But if you guys are watching this, it will be out, I'm sure, in the next day or two. So we'll go. Yeah, I'll go and show that to you. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot of really fun things. So
definitely.
Yeah, stay tuned. Yes, well, it's always good to see you, darling.
You have a great weekend.
You too. All right. Okay. Thank you guys for joining YNS Live with NFL Thread with Cynthia Zordich and myself.